Move faster, old man. We don't have all day. 22-year-old Seaman Derek Nash's voice echoed across the obstacle course area at Naval Amphibious Base. The 67-year-old obstacle course guard, Michael Doc Sullivan, stood before him, quietly holding his stopwatch, looking at the young recruits. He had been working at this base for 35 years, but had never encountered such disrespectful recruits. Nash had looked up from his iPhone, laughing with his friends. This old man was there. Entertainment. Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, California was one of the most important naval bases. This base was the heart of SEAL training, home to the world's most elite military program. Every year thousands of young men came, but only 25% reached graduation. Everything at this base was built on discipline, respect, and honor. But this morning, a very different situation was taking place. Michael Doc Sullivan, at 67, had graying hair, his face marked with deep weathered lines. He wore a simple navy blue base civilian contractor uniform, a safety whistle around his neck, clipboard in hand. He had been working as an obstacle course safety guard at this base for 35 years. Quiet, reliable, never had an incident, never received a complaint. But his eyes still had that sharpness, exactly as an operator's should be. Seaman Derek Nash and his friends had just arrived. Bud's training hadn't started yet. They were in prep week. Nash came from a wealthy family. His father was a congressman. He had just graduated from Naval Academy, decided to become a SEAL to prove himself. But his real motivation was Instagram posts and social media fame. This morning they were at obstacle course orientation. Doc Sullivan was explaining course safety rules to them, but Nash and his group weren't paying attention. "Look at this guy," Nash whispered to his buddy, "probably never even been in combat." "Just a safety bureaucrat," Doc continued as if he had heard. "Gentlemen, this obstacle course has been here since 1962. Every SEAL who graduated from this base trained on these obstacles. Yeah, and now we have modern equipment," Nash interrupted. "Old school stuff is obsolete, just like old school people." The other recruits were uncomfortable. But Nash didn't stop. "I mean, look at him," Nash continued. "Can barely walk. Probably can't even do a pull-up. And he's supposed to teach us about physical training." Doc quietly took notes on his clipboard. "Seaman Nash, safety regulations require our safety regulations." Nash laughed. "That's all you civilians talk about. Rules, regulations, paperwork. Real warriors take risks. That's why I'm here and you single quotes well, your clipboard guy." At this point, Master Chief Petty Officer James Rodriguez was approaching from the other end of the obstacle course. He was also supervising orientation. He had heard the situation and was disturbed. "Seaman Nash," Rodriguez spoke in a stern voice. "That's enough." Nash went to attention position. "Yes, Master Chief. Doc Sullivan is this facility's senior safety officer. You will show him respect." "Yes, Master Chief," Nash repeated. But there was mockery in his eyes. Rodriguez looked at Doc, shook his head as if apologizing. Doc just smiled. He was used to these kinds of things. After orientation ended, Nash and his friends started testing the obstacle course. Doc was watching from a distance for safety. Nash approached the rope climb. "Watch this, guys," he shouted. His technique was completely wrong. He was only using his arms. His legs were idle. "Seaman," Doc approached, "your rope climb technique is wrong. You need to use your legs to distribute weight." "I don't need advice from a civilian," Nash snapped. "I got this." Halfway up, Nash's grip slipped. He fell from the rope. Fortunately, he only fell from 10 feet height onto the soft landing pad. Doc immediately ran over. "Are you hurt?" Nash got up in shame. "I'm fine. Don't touch me." "Protocol requires medical check," Doc insisted. "I said I'm fine." Nash pushed Doc. "Get away from me, old man." At this point, another instructor, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, approached. "What's going on here? This civilian is interfering with my training," Nash complained. Chen looked at Doc. "Doc, what happened?" "Seaman fell from rope climb, improper technique." Checking for injuries, Chen looked at Nash sternly. "Seaman, you will follow Doc Sullivan's protocol, but Mum, that's an order." Reluctantly, Nash consented to the medical check. Doc checked professionally, bruises but no serious injury. "You're clear," Doc said quietly, "but next time use your legs." "Rope climb is all about leg power, not just arms." Nash said nothing, just walked away. That evening in the barracks, Nash was telling the story, but in his version as the hero. Old guy completely freaked out. Nash was exaggerating. "Like I'd never fallen before, probably never even seen combat, just pushes. Papers." But an older recruit in the barracks, Petty Officer 3rd Class Marcus Williams, knew something different. "Nash, you don't know anything about Doc Sullivan, do you?" "What should I know? Old civilian contractor." Williams shook his head. "Bro, maybe you should do some research." "Research about what?" "About who Doc Sullivan is." Nash laughed dismissively. "Whatever, man." The next day was advanced obstacle training. Doc was there again, supervising, this time the toughest part of the course, the slide for life, sliding on a rope at 50-foot height. Nash approached confidently. "I got this," he said. Doc gently warned, "Seaman, grip technique is very important. Thumbs over the rope, not wrapped around." "I know what I'm doing," Nash snapped. Halfway through the slide, Nash's grip failed again. This time from higher and without a safety net. He went into panic mode. "Help!" he shouted, trying to hold onto the rope with one hand. Instantly Doc went into action. Despite being 67, he climbed the obstacle with incredible agility. Within seconds he reached Nash. "Seaman, listen to me," Doc spoke in a calm but authoritative voice. "Right hand, grip rope. Left hand, reach for my arm. I can't. I'll fall. Trust me. On 3. 1. 2. 3. Nash grabbed Doc's arm. Doc pulled him with an incredibly strong grip, stabilized him on the rope. "Now, legs around rope. Lock ankles." "Good. Now we slide together." They descended safely to the ground. Nash was shaking, adrenaline pumping. "You okay?" Doc asked. Nash couldn't find words. He just nodded. Lieutenant Commander Chen had witnessed the entire thing. She immediately approached. "Doc, that was impressive," she said in an amazed way. "Just doing my job, ma'am," Doc answered quietly. "That climbing speed, that rescue technique." "Doc, where did you learn that?" Doc just shrugged. "Years of experience." Nash finally spoke. You saved my life. That's what we do, seamen. We save each other." That night Nash couldn't sleep. Doc's calm professionalism, incredible physical ability at his age, perfect rescue technique. Something didn't add up. He opened his laptop, typed Michael Sullivan Navy on Google. Results, pages and pages of military commendations, old newspaper articles, declassified mission reports. Navy SEAL Michael Doc Sullivan, SEAL Team 3. Vietnam 1968 to 1972, Silver Star recipient for heroic action under fire. Navy Cross for extraordinary valor. Purple Heart X3. Nash's hands shook as he read. Old photos showed a young, fierce-looking operator, unmistakably Doc Sullivan. The next morning Nash went to the obstacle course early. Doc was there, doing his usual maintenance. "Doc," Nash hesitantly approached. "Can we talk?" "Of course, seaman. I Googled you last night." Doc stopped working, turned slowly. "Did you now? Why didn't you tell us? You're not just a safety guard, you're a legend." Doc sighed. "Nash, that was a long time ago, different life, but Doc, you earned the Silver Star, Navy Cross. You were SEAL Team 3. Vietnam, covert operations. Double quotes, ancient history. Why are you here?" As a civilian contractor, Doc sat on a bench, gestured for Nash to sit too. After service, lots of veterans struggle. Some get famous, some forgotten. I chose a different path. Wanted to stay close to what I loved, training future SEALs, not as an instructor, just ... As a helper, but you could be an instructor, you have more experience than anyone. Experience isn't everything, Nash. These young instructors, they have modern techniques, current tactics. My job is to keep you safe while you learn. Nash bowed his head in shame. Doc, I'm sorry for everything I said. How I treated you. Apology accepted. But Nash learned something. Never judge people by appearance. Humility is more important than strength. That day Nash completely changed. He worked harder in training, showed respect to instructors, and learned lessons from Doc every day. Weeks later, Hell Week started, Bud S's most brutal phase. 5 days of almost no sleep, constant physical torture, mental breakdowns. Day 3. Nash was at his breaking point. In surf torture in the freezing Pacific Ocean, he was thinking of quitting. Doc was watching from shore. He made eye contact with Nash. Doc just nodded. Meaning you got this. Nash remembered Doc's words, we save each other. He pushed through. Day 5, Hell Week ended. Of the starting 150 candidates, only 40 to remain. Nash was one. At the graduation ceremony, Doc was there in his usual spot, quietly watching. After the ceremony, Nash ran to Doc. Doc, I did it. Hell Week complete. Doc smiled proudly. You could, Nash. Never doubted. Doc, none of this was possible without you. Your lessons, your example ... double quotes Nash. You did all the work. I just showed you the direction, but the story didn't end there. Weeks later, a formal complaint came to base command, an anonymous report. Doc Sullivan's credentials were being questioned. An investigation was launched. The base commander, Captain Robert Hayes, personally handled the case. Doc was called to the office. Doc, Hayes spoke seriously. There's been a complaint. Someone is questioning your background, your qualifications for this job. I understand, sir. Doc, I need to ask. Your service record, it's heavily redacted. Classified missions, can you provide any? Proof. Doc nodded. He brought a small metal box from his personal locker. Inside were medals, Silver Star, Navy Cross, Purple Hearts, combat ribbons. Hayes examined carefully. These are. Doc, these are extraordinary. Just doing my job, sir. Doc, why didn't you ever tell anyone? Didn't see the need, sir. Past is past. Present job is what matters. Hayes made a decision. Doc, I'm not just clearing you. I'm promoting awareness. This base needs to know who you are. Doc protested. Sir, respectfully, I don't want attention. It's not about attention, Doc. It's about respect. About teaching these young men what real service looks like. The next morning, a base-wide formation was called. Unusual. Today was a routine training day. All personnel assembled, instructors, recruits, support staff. Even an admiral from nearby Naval Special Warfare Command attended. Captain Hayes took the stage. Gentlemen, we're here to honor someone. Someone who's been serving this base for 35 years, quietly, humbly, asking nothing in return. Michael Doc Sullivan, front and center. Doc reluctantly marched forward. Hayes continued. Doc Sullivan joined the Navy in 1966, completed Bud S 1967, assigned SEAL Team 3. Deployed to Vietnam 1968-1972. During those years, Doc participated in over 200 combat operations. Covert insertions, direct action missions, rescue operations. In 1970, during a mission in the Making Delta, his team was ambushed. Outnumbered 10-1, Doc, serving as team medic, treated 8 wounded teammates. Under fire, then single-handedly provided covering fire while evacuating all 8 to the extraction point. For this action, Doc was awarded the Silver Star. The formation was dead silent. Young recruits staring in awe. Hayes continued in 1971, another mission. Team trapped behind enemy lines, Doc volunteered to return alone, retrieve vital intelligence. Spent 3 days solo in hostile territory. Mission success. Navy Cross awarded, 3 Purple Hearts. Meaning wounded 3 times, never quit. Always returned to team. The Admiral stepped forward, took the microphone. Gentlemen, Doc Sullivan represents something we often forget. True warriors don't seek glory. They serve quietly, faithfully, continuously. After retirement from active duty, Doc could have done anything: book deals, movies, speaking tour. Instead, he chose this, helping train the next generation. The Admiral directly addressed Doc. Doc, on behalf of Naval Special Warfare Command, we thank you. You are the embodiment of the SEAL ethos. Standing ovation. The entire base, thousands of personnel, applauding. Nash had tears streaming down his face. Other recruits, too. Even hardened instructors were emotional. After the ceremony, Nash approached Doc. Doc, why stay silent all these years? Doc put his hand on Nash's shoulder. Nash, real strength isn't loud. Real courage doesn't need announcement. Real service is showing up, every day, doing the job nobody sees. I get it now, Nash whispered. It's not about glory. Never was. It's about the mission, about brothers. About a purpose bigger than yourself. Months later, Nash graduated Bud.S. top of his class. He received his trident pin from Doc himself. Seaman Nash, Doc said formally, you earned this. But remember, the trident doesn't make you a SEAL. Your actions, your character, your service to your brothers, that makes you a SEAL. Yes, Doc, I'll never forget. Years passed. Nash deployed multiple times, became a respected operator. Every mission, he carried Doc's lessons. One day, years later, Nash returned to Coronado as an instructor. The first person he looked for, Doc, he found him in the same spot, obstacle course, clipboard in hand. Doc, Nash hugged him. Still here. Doc smiled. Where else would I be? This is home, Doc. I'm an instructor now. Because of you. No, Nash, because of you. You did the work. Doc, I have a request. Would you co-teach the safety course with me? Show these recruits what real experience looks like. Doc considered. Nash, I'm just a civilian contractor. No, Doc, you're a legend. And these kids need to learn from you. Doc agreed. From that day, Doc's role expanded. Not just safety guard, but mentor, teacher, living example. Young recruits now knew that quiet old man with a clipboard wasn't just a contractor. He was a warrior, a hero, a SEAL, and the most important lesson Doc taught wasn't about combat or training. It was about humility. True warriors, Doc would tell each new class, serve without needing recognition, fight without needing fame. Sacrifice without expecting reward. That's what separates a warrior from a soldier. A warrior serves a purpose. A soldier serves ego. Be warriors. Naval Amphibious Base Coronado was forever changed, not because of policy or training updates, but because one man, quietly serving for 35 years, showed everyone what real heroism looked like. Derek Nash eventually became a SEAL team commander. Every operation, every decision, guided by Doc's principles. And when Nash's own son joined the Navy, wanting to become a SEAL, the first person Nash took him to meet, Doc Sullivan. Son, Nash said to his boy, this man taught me everything that matters. Not in a classroom, not in a briefing room, but through example, through quiet service. Through humble dedication. Doc, now in his 80s, still at the base, still serving, smiled at the young man. Ready to begin? Doc asked. Yes, sir, Nash's son replied. Good. First lesson. Respect isn't given, it's earned not by talking, but by doing. Not by claiming, but by proving. And remember, the loudest man in the room is usually the weakest. The quietest man is usually the strongest. The legacy continued. Generation after generation of SEALs, taught not just by instructors, but by a living legend who chose to serve quietly. Sometimes the greatest teachers don't have fancy titles. Sometimes the greatest warriors don't seek the spotlight. Michael Doc Sullivan proved that real strength is silent, real courage is humble, and real service is eternal. His story reminded everyone, heroes walk among us, quietly serving, asking nothing, giving everything. And that lesson passed from Doc to Nash, from Nash to his son, from one generation to the next, became the foundation of what it truly means to be a warrior. Not glory, not fame, not recognition, just service. Just brotherhood, just mission. That's the SEAL way. That's Doc's way. That's the warrior's way.